Everyone that's out here trying to take care of themselves probably has these tools, but I want to make sure that you're using them properly and you actually know how to interpret the results from what you get. These are simple tools that you can get from any Amazon or usually any grocery store that has a pharmacy, so that you can take care of yourself a little bit better and know at what point do I need to reach out to somebody versus I don't. I'm Dr. Leslie McElrath. I'm a board certified family physician. I'm in Akron, Ohio. And today we're going to talk about checking your blood pressure, your weight, your blood sugar, and your temperature. Okay, so we're going to start off with the blood pressure cuff, because if you have a high blood pressure diagnosis or just want to make sure that you don't have high blood pressure, because it is the silent killer, so everybody should be checking their blood pressure periodically. What you want to do is make sure that your cuff is on your left arm. This is my left. I know it's probably flipped, but this is my left. And you want the cuff all the way above your elbow, right? You want it on your left because it's closest to your heart, so the reading that you get is more accurate, more likely to be what actually is happening in your heart, versus if you have it on your wrist and it's down by your belly. Okay, so when you're checking your blood pressure, you want to sit for 5 minutes quietly, not holding on to urine. So you go pee and then sit down with your feet flat on the floor. That is going to give you the most accurate reading. If you've been up and running and hollering and screaming at your kids and then you try to check your blood pressure, it's going to be artificially elevated, okay? And this is what's called an ambulatory blood pressure. So if you notice that every time you go to the doctor's office, it's elevated, but if you check it at home, it's fine, talk to your doctor about, are we treating for my ambulatory blood pressure versus my in-office blood pressure? Because those can be two different things and treatment varies. So blood pressure above 120/80 is considered abnormal. Once you have a diagnosis of hypertension, our goal is no longer to get you below 120/80. It's just to get you below 140/90. Okay? So that's the first one. Up on your arm on the left side, sit quietly for 5 minutes without having to pee, with feet flat on the floor, quietly, and then press the button to check your blood pressure. So that's number one. Your weight. When you're checking your weight, you want to wear the same thing, either nothing or the same clothing every single time. That way, if there's any major fluctuations, you can tell the difference between it being just water weight versus actual weight, okay? And so a difference of 3 to 5 pounds could just be water. So you usually want to check it around the same time every day, because your level of hydration usually is the same. So if you normally check your weight after you exercise and then you check it one day before you exercise, it might be artificially elevated because you're holding on to more water at that point. And then for women, it fluctuates all over the place because our water fluctuates, because our hormones fluctuate. Yay, so great. Now, I don't personally believe in BMI and the usefulness of BMI, because it does not take in consideration body composition. But if that's for you, that's for you, okay? But for your weight, it's all about doing it the same time every day in the same clothing. That's going to give you the most consistent results. Okay. Next is your blood sugar. So if you have a diagnosis of diabetes, or if you want to check if you have a diagnosis of diabetes, what you want to do is check, what I believe the best check to do is your postprandial blood sugar. So that is your after you eat, 2 hours, very specifically 2 hours from that first bite that goes into your mouth. That's the blood sugar that is very useful. There's also the fasting blood sugar. So the blood sugar right before you eat anything in the morning is a good blood sugar to tell us what's going on. The postprandial blood sugar tells us, is your body able to bring your sugars back down once they spike based upon the foods that you eat. So if you're trying to do diet hacking and figuring out how your body responds to different foods, a postprandial blood sugar is very, very useful. Make sure you clean with alcohol. You let the alcohol dry. We're not waving it or blowing on it, because that's just putting germs back into the area that you just cleaned. Then you do the lancing to get the drop of blood onto the machine. Okay, make sure your machine is calibrated properly, and that periodically, like every couple of years, you get a new reader, because they do go out and they stop working properly. Okay, so that's number 3. The last one we're going to talk about today is your temperature. Now, not everybody mounts a massive temperature, right? But a temperature is your body's way of trying to burn out an infection. So if you have a cold or a flu and you start getting a fever, as long as you're not miserable, let it happen. Okay, because that's your body's way of doing its job by taking Tylenol or Advil and things of that sort to lower your temperatures so that it's not high. You're actually making your body have to work longer or harder to get rid of this infection. Okay, so as long as it's not too high is 105, not 100.5, but 105 degrees Fahrenheit, because we are in America, Fahrenheit. That's where you're going to say, that's too high, I need to take meds. Or if you're acting abnormally, or especially if you're talking about a kid, if they're acting not like themselves, they're just laying about like a log, treat that kid. If they feel miserable, treat that kid. Don't let it burn out just because, but it's not necessary to treat it if you're feeling okay. Now, for those people that love to say, I usually run low, and so 99 is a fever for me. It's not, though. It's still not. I don't know what to tell you. It's not. Regardless of where your temperature normally lies, a fever is anything above 100.4. 99.4 is not a fever. 99.3 is not a fever. It has to be above 100.4. Okay? That is just how it was determined. That's when we know that you have a fever. And knowing if you have a fever is actually very useful for us in figuring out what could be going wrong with you. Okay, so 100.4, either the one that rolls over your forehead or doing up under your tongue, or if it's a baby, rectally, underneath the arm. There are some adjustments that do have to be made depending on how you're taking the temperature. I think if it's underneath the arm, you do have to add 1 degree to it. If it's under the tongue, it's just what it is. The ones over the forehead usually are just what they are. But for the most part, 100.4 is a fever. Anything below that is not a fever, and that's okay. That does not necessarily mean that you don't have an infection. It just doesn't mean that you have a fever. That's it. Okay? So, with those 4 things, your blood pressure cuff, your scale, your blood sugar readings, and your temperature, those can give you some key ideas in how to take care of yourself. All right? In the future, if you need help, if you need assistance, go reach out to your doctor. If you don't have a doctor and you're in the Akron-Fairlawn area, reach out to me. Let's get you taken care of. Let's teach you how to take care of yourself so that we can prevent preventable things, preventable illnesses, but that you know at what point do you actually need a doctor or not. All right. You have a wonderful day. Peace.